Educate others, the youth mostly, because this is what we're focused on issues that curb climate change.
So this conference has a specific theme, which is climate finance. So it basically deals with the issues that youth encounter in accessing finance to do adaptation and mitigation measures.
The young people, we are not well coordinated yet. We work in isolation. And in order for funds to reach us, we need to come together. This is why this conference is happening. Once we come together, coordinate ourselves, we can create synergies and networks of all these various initiatives and coalitions of youth organizations. And then after that, we can look at financing mechanisms which do exist, but they are not directly targeted at youth. They are directed at a broader scope. So I think in order to bridge this gap, we would need to start with young people being brought together, coordinated, so we understand what are they working on and how much of the adaptation or mitigation funds can we give to the young people.
First of all, African youth is one of the most important groups for the near and the long future, because they will form the workforce actually for Africa. And it is known that, for example, for agriculture sector, the majority now, the average age from the farmer is quite high. So we need to try also to ensure that we can attract youth into agribusiness, agriculture, food security issues. And climate change and climate smart agriculture provide a really good opportunity for that, because now with the Paris Agreement and a lot of countries put in climate smart agriculture as one of the approaches towards adaptation and mitigation, it's important that the youth fully engaged at all levels, like at national level with the governments, with the policy makers, but also at the global and regional context.
Last year we had
for action. Time to speak, time to talk, time to put good policies on the paper shouldn't come to an end, but there should be more of implementation. We are done with just talking. It's time now to put our words into action and to ensure that there is more impact, not only in our communities, but also on the African continent and the world at large.
I use my platform as a way to educate others, the youth mostly, because this is what we're focused on issues that curb climate change.
So this conference has a specific theme, which is climate finance. So it basically deals with the issues that youth encounter in accessing finance to do adaptation and mitigation measures.
The young people, we are not well coordinated yet. We work in isolation. And in order for funds to reach us, we need to come together. This is why this conference is happening. Once we come together, coordinate ourselves, we can create synergies and networks of all these various initiatives and coalitions of youth organizations. And then after that, we can look at financing mechanisms which do exist, but they are not directly targeted at youth. They are directed at a broader scope. So I think in order to bridge this gap, we would need to start with young people being brought together, coordinated, so we understand what are they working on and how much of the adaptation or mitigation funds can we give to the young people.
First of all, African youth is one of the most important groups for the near and the long future, because they will form the workforce actually for Africa. And it is known that, for example, for agriculture sector, the majority now, the average age from the farmer is quite high. So we need to try also to ensure that we can attract youth into agribusiness, agriculture, food security issues. And climate change and climate smart agriculture provide a really good opportunity for that, because now with the Paris Agreement and a lot of countries put in climate smart agriculture as one of the approaches towards adaptation and mitigation, it's important that the youth fully engaged at all levels, like at national level with the governments, with the policy makers, but also at the global and regional context.
Last year we had
for action. Time to speak, time to talk, time to put good policies on the paper shouldn't come to an end, but there should be more of implementation. We are done with just talking. It's time now to put our words into action and to ensure that there is more impact, not only in our communities, but also on the African continent and the world at large.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of AfriYOCCC. We are super excited to have you join us. Hope you all can hear me very loud and clearly. I think we'll give the rest of our colleagues to join us. So let's give them about 2 minutes and then we'll kickstart this conversation. Super excited to have you all join us from wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'll be your first speaker for the day. Yes, so in about 3 minutes, we should be starting our conversation for the day. Thank you all. Thank you very much, everyone who is joining us this afternoon. I hope you can hear me. My name is Juliet Grace Luwedde. I am from Uganda, and I am the coordinator for the Africa Youth Initiative on Climate Change. I can see colleagues here in the chat box who are joining us from different parts of Africa this afternoon. So I am super grateful to be opening the session for today, and I can't wait for us to have a very interactive yet informative conversation this afternoon. I can see we have Bila. I'll not attempt to read your first name because I might get it wrong, from South Africa joining us. You're very welcome. Hope you've enjoyed the first 2 days of this conversation of the Africa Youth AfriYOCCC. I see Shakina from Algeria. I see Christine from Makerere University. Please do utilize the chat box if you have any questions, if you have any comments. We'll be sure to have those comments, and then we'll make sure that if any questions arise, we will respond to them. I also see Joshua from Obara from Uganda, Rufa Matsika from Zimbabwe. You're very, very welcome this afternoon. I'm happy that you all have been able to join us. I would really love to hear what your experience has been for the last 2 days. If you could use your social media handles, go there, tag Ike Africa, and don't forget to use the hashtag AfriYOCCC2021. Maybe just to kickstart this conversation this afternoon, I know you're all aware that COVID-19, when it hit the world last year, so many things went on a standstill. And the theme for us for AfriYOC this year has been inspiring African youth leaders for climate action and the COVID-19 green recovery agenda. So I would really love to hear from you what you think some of the green climate recovery agendas are from your perspectives as young people. Please do use the chat box. We'll pick on those comments and to make sure that we can include those in our position paper that will be later on highlighted on by a colleague of ours who's joining us. Maybe just to share, so the objectives of AfriYOC this year for us as an organization or as a team that have been behind making sure that this is a success has been to create a platform for youth and relevant stakeholders to discuss current and emerging issues on climate change and biodiversity loss in Africa, and to foster participation among the young people. We've also been aiming in these 3 days to create awareness and improve climate literacy and diplomacy amongst the youth, while at the same time sharing ideas, knowledge, best practices, and projects by African youth on climate change. That's also going to be highlighted on later on by a colleague who will be presenting the Green Book. I think many of you were able to submit your ideas, and this Green Book will actually be exhibited in COP26 later on in the year. Maybe just a quick recap of how our days have been, our 2 days have been. You all have been privileged to have, we've been privileged to have amazing speakers join us. We had Dr. Richard Munang from UNEP join us on day 1. Dr. Yowuba Sokana also joined us. We had Stuart West, Joshua Ampson, I hope I pronounced that right, Maria Horn. We also had other colleagues, Dion Shekuza, Chiogonzi Udea. All these are young people. Many of you are meeting for the very first time, or many of you have actually interacted with. Just also to highlight, that session was moderated by our very own Fatou Jeng. I don't know what all your key takeaways were from that session, but from my perspective and where I stand, I was very inspired and motivated to do more work and actually to lead more young people in my community to take more action when it comes to climate. Yesterday, we were also privileged to be joined by Gonzalo Munoz. We had Nigel Tropping, Nisrim Elasim, who couldn't join us virtually, but she sent her message, which many of you were witness to, and we'll be replaying that again in the sessions to follow. We also had Elizabeth Guru, who moderated that session with a lot of grace. I don't know how she does it, having a panel where you have to moderate a session with only men and you're the only woman who has to lead the conversation. That should have been a very tricky place for her to be in, yet she did it quite justice and with a lot of grace. We also had Sulwen Hart join us for that session yesterday, and Ambassador Hussein Alfa join us. For today's conversation, it's me, Juliet, who is just opening up the conversation for you and getting you all excited to just look ahead and share your ideas, your questions with us. But we'll be hearing from Executive Director from AIC, Kassim Gawusu. Then we'll have Olumide Idowu, who is our communications guru, also share his perspective, as well Elizabeth from yesterday. If you met her or if you're meeting her for the first time, she'll be speaking to us yet again. And then we'll also have Jabri Ibrahim, who will also be jumping in later on. So just again, to refresh and recap on the last 2 days, I think one of the key takeaways from my perspective, and one of the things that stood out for me from all the speakers that we had, many of them alluded to the need to invest in young people. Many of us young people from our communities are doing amazing work and are taking action when it comes to climate. We are innovating and we are making sure that the conversation of climate change does not only stop with our leaders, but then we are showing them that we are actually taking action and we want to be heard. But then again, there is need for investment. And that's one of the things that Dr. Richard Munang alluded to. I remember very clearly in his presentation, he said, there is need to actually invest in young people, and investment usually is not only in terms of finances, but it also comes in terms of capacity building, bringing the opportunities closest to young people and making sure that they are heard, they're made a part of the conversation. And that's what we are doing with AfriYOCCC. We are giving and creating a platform for the young people to be heard and to share their opinions and to share their experiences at the same time, so that we can see if something is working in Kenya or Nigeria, can it work in Uganda? And if it can work in Uganda, can it work in Sudan? So that there is knowledge transfer and this knowledge spreads out throughout Africa. So that's what we are doing across the board. The other thing that really stood out for me was on the need to leverage the lessons and the recommendations as they've been drawn out in the IPCC report. Many of us are aware that that report came out with various recommendations. Some of the key takeaways in that report are actually not new. These are facts that we are aware of. These are things that we experience in our communities on a daily basis. I think that report for me was just echoing the reality that we face on a daily basis, and the need for us as young people not to stop, but to continuously engage and to take more action to increase our efforts when it comes to the kind of work that we do on a daily basis. So I hope if you haven't read the report yet, please look out for it and read it, familiarize yourself with it, and find out what are the key takeaways from that report that resonate with you and the kind of work that you're doing, so that you're able to actually do amazing things in your communities. The third thing that stood out for me, again, COP26 is around the corner. This is a conversation that we've had for the last 2 years. We saw it had to be moved, and this year still there's a lot of contention. Should it be virtual? Should it be physical? And then if it's physical, what kind of people should attend it? Have young people been considered to attend COP26? If yes, what are some of the opportunities that are there for them during this COP26? Recently, I think that was on Wednesday, the UK government came out and said, okay, all participants or all delegates who are coming into the UK, before you had to quarantine at your own fee, but now the UK government says, no, we'll meet that cost. Is that a step forward into inclusive participation from everyone, as from the global south? Does that mean that, okay, now we have an opportunity to actually participate in COP26, but even when we get to participate in COP26, what does this look like for us? What does this look like for the work that we do in our communities? Something for all of us to ponder on. Before I bring it or hand it over to my other colleagues, I want to appreciate our partners, the people that have moved with us on this journey as we've been preparing for AfriYOCCC in the months that have been, and the sessions that we've had. I want to thank Race to Resilience. These guys have really been very, very supportive of the work that we do as AIC. Yungo, if you participate in the UNFCCC conversations, you should be aware of Yungo, because that's the platform for the young people, the Open Society in East Africa, and all our other partners that have stood with us through this period. And with that, allow me to introduce, like I earlier mentioned, we have a lineup of amazing speakers for this afternoon. So allow me to introduce Olumide to take over. Olumide, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Juliet. Thank you everyone that's on this call. So exciting that we are having this great conversation again today as we are rounding up AfriYOCCC 2021. Let me also reiterate what Juliet said, to appreciate all our speakers, partners, and friends that have been able to make this happen. So today I'll be presenting the process and the progress of the Green Book that we are working on in for the past couple of weeks of months, and how this is going to come up and what we want to actually make people to understand, and how we want to use this platform, this Green Book, to influence change and to drive a solution of what young people are actually doing. So I'm going to be doing a presentation based on the book and how you all need to be part of it. So first and foremost, the launch of the Youth Eco Smart Project book is majorly focused on the actions that young people are doing. And what we are doing today is to see, okay, let me start from why Youth Eco Smart Project book. Basically, this book is because of the climate change has increased level of uncertainty about our future, and it has impacted intensively over time. One thing has become certain: we will leave the earth to today's children and young people and the future generation. As we also know that African population is young and continue to get younger, this presents an opportunity for young people to elevate the continent. The prospect of our African youth is space to create their ideal futures, and some youth are involved in sustainable solution and ecological projects. And in tackling this solution, youth often face limitations such as access to finance, land, credit, training, and new technologies needed to effectively improve livelihoods. And you can see that the urgency of young people to showcase what they do and the urgency of them to understand that they are also part of the implementation when it comes to driving implementation on different areas they are working on. So that is why we actually, so the Green Book project, we actually provide a unique database showcasing eco-friendly, climate smart and resilience projects by youth across Africa. So today we are launching this for everybody to see that we have something we want to actually present in line with our strategic goal and mandate. IEC adopted the ongoing support of the OSEA project in the 5 East African countries to showcase actionable projects by our member organization as best practices that can be replicated across Africa countries. And why we are doing this is for us to actually understand that young people are doing something on ground. How do we amplify their voices? How do we amplify their progress and the project they are working on? And that is why the Green Book is coming on board. The key objectives of this Green Book are to promote selected youth-led ecological smart projects and initiatives. Also to encourage our government and partners to support the selected projects, because as we are moving towards COP, we want to let them to understand that young people are not just talking again. Young people are actually trying to implement activities, programs, and projects that can drive change, whether on the NDC, under adaptation or mitigation. We are part of the strategy, we are part of the implementation. And it's also going to advocate for more support to ensure youth engagement in climate action projects and sustainable development. So I'm hoping that as much as possible that is on this call, that you've not applied or submit your actionable project that can drive financing or support. I'm looking forward to make sure that you send this across to us. The focus and the scope, we are looking at solutions that solve climate-related issues across Africa. As long as you're in Africa, your project is implemented in Africa, this is a platform for you to showcase your program, your project, and your activities. And this solution must be implemented by youth organizations between the age of 18 and 35. And this actionable project must also influence change in your country and add advantage of solution to what your country is looking at under your NDC or the Paris Agreement. Also, details. We're looking at providing 50 pages of this Green Book as we move on to COP. We are going to be coming to COP with close to 500 copies for our partners to actually see and get engaged with it. So a Google Drive database of youth eco-friendly, climate smart, and resilience will be gathered together and will be showcased to them through this green book. Then activities and projects across Africa. So like I said, if you have your activities that you think has impact and influence change in your country, let us help you to upscale and provide opportunity in this time we're going to be having. So registration and hosting of IX side event exhibition at COP26 in Glasgow and in the UK. So as we move on, our side event, we're going to be hosting a side event exhibition where this green book is going to be showcased to different partners that can actually support all these activities. And we are looking for a way whereby people can have a online copy as well, because the online copy is going to showcase a lot of opportunities for people that will not be able to get the actual copy. So what next? How can you apply? This is the link. We're going to be sharing this link on our social media platform. And we want everybody on this call to also have this opportunity to be part of this green book, to make sure that you hear your voice and you make your voice known. And we're also looking forward to see how you can also join our network, the African Unity Initiative on Climate Change, to represent your country and to showcase what your country will be doing. So this link will be shared with you all in the chat box, and we also be on all our social media platform if you want to look at it up. So this is what the green book is going to look like. This is what we are going to be showcasing. Youth Eco Smart Green Book is going to promoting youth-led ecological smart project and initiative across Africa. Is that action that's focused on cleanup activities, water sanitation and hygiene, climate smart agriculture, providing solar panel for young generation, and recycling activities. So I'm looking forward to make sure that we receive your application and we get you engaged on the Green Book. Thank you very much. And I'm going to be handing over to Elizabeth that will be taking over from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Olumide. I hope I am loud and clear. I will try to shout. I've been having problems with my microphone of late, but I hope you can hear me. I hope. So if you can't hear me, please just chat, just type some. Okay, great. Thank you, Hasiba. So today my role is so easy, because today I'm not moderating. I'm simply going to give you a summary of the youth position paper. So one thing we need to understand is the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change has approximately 42 national chapters that are affiliated to this network. So these consultations did not start yesterday, last week, etc., but amongst our national chapters, through their reports and through some of the consultations which they did in the NDC's enhancement process and also in the NAPS, we were gathering information since back then in March. So some of this information constitutes the information that will be part of the youth position paper. Yesterday, we did a small exercise. Those who managed to join our meeting yesterday, we did a very fun exercise where we wanted to gather information from most young people so that the youth position paper is not only centered on, on one person, but we are gathering African voices, because at the end of the day, we want African problems, African challenges to be reflected. So the target of this youth position paper, we have plans to present it to the African group of negotiators. Those who were in the meeting yesterday, Ambassador Nafo was in the meeting, and we thought it's actually a strategic thing to do, to present the position paper to the AGN. We also have plans to present the position paper to the Africa Union. We have the AMSEN under the AU, so we also hope that ministers that are working in the environment from their respective countries will have a chance to go through the youth position paper. We also have plans to submit this position paper to the UNFCCC and COP26 as we are building momentum to COP26 in Glasgow. We feel like it is very important for African voices to be heard. We feel like it is very important for our struggles to be heard and for urgent action to be taken. This position paper is structured in 3 parts. We have the preamble, number 1. We have the section where we are reflecting on the available policies here in Africa, institutions, laws, and institutional framework. Then we have the 3rd segment, which will focus specifically on thematic areas that are really negotiated. We, as the African youth, we acknowledge the role that most African countries have played in engaging young people in the NDC's enhancement process. We acknowledge this, and we would also want this engagement to be continuous. We also recognize the efforts that are being put by the Africa group of negotiators of coming up with a mentorship program. And so far, we can proudly say we have 3 junior negotiators that are being mentored by the AGN. We also highlight I'm sorry about the background noise. We also highlighted that we feel like young people are underrepresented, and we would want them to be represented in all climate-related climate policies. And on the issues to do with policies, laws, and the institutional framework, we also highlighted that in this position paper that all strategies and plans should be within 1.5 degrees Celsius. And I'm sure if you joined the meeting yesterday, this is what Selwyn had said, that, you know, as we are building momentum to COP, we want to make sure that we keep within 1.5 degrees Celsius. For now, as it stands, we are at 1.2 degrees Celsius. So these are some of the issues that we managed to pick up, you know, from all the presentations to make sure that we shape up this position paper, and to make sure that we integrate African youth perspective in all policies here in Africa. Most of the times, the policies that we have, they are not youth friendly. And when young people want to address their issues, maybe in terms of the implementation of that policy, it will be too late. Because from the formulation phase, young people were not consulted, young people were not engaged. So we want to reflect on this, and we want it to be highlighted that when it comes to issues to do with our national policies, could it be regional policies, institutional frameworks, young people's voices are heard in line with climate-related issues. And above all, we want meaningful youth participation. We want meaningful youth participation, not tokenism. Meaningful youth participation is not merely inviting young people to meetings, but meaningful youth participation is making sure that in the planning process, young people are there. Even during the meetings, we have representatives of young people not coming in to listen, but also coming in to offer ideas and coming in to add value to the ongoing projects, maybe that the government is already doing. So these are some of the issues that we managed to highlight in our position paper. Then moving on to the negotiated topics of this position paper, we managed to highlight issues to do with climate finance, why and how it is important for young people to have access to climate finance, and to urge African countries to come up with, you know, institutions, strong institutions when it comes to financial mechanisms. As it stands, I'm sure if you have been following the meetings, that the climate fund, is supposed to receive 100 billion, but up to now, we don't have those funds. And as African young people, we are also suffering because these are some of the funds that we also need to implement and adapt to some of our projects. So we are highlighting much and emphasizing much that we're calling upon governments to make sure that we come up with robust and strong institutions when it comes to national or regional financial mechanisms in order for our young people to also benefit. And for climate finance to be accessible to young people, and for young people to demand transparency and come up with tracking mechanisms, where the money is going, how it's going to be used, are young people part of it or not? So these are some of the issues that you see being highlighted in our position paper. And also another thing that is in the position paper will be on the implementation of the NDCs. Right now, most countries should have submitted their NDCs, but we also have a lot of African countries and other countries that have not yet submitted their NDCs. I cannot overemphasize the importance of, submitting our nationally determined contributions. Nationally determined contributions, they open up opportunities for us as young people in terms of employment. I'm not only talking about employment, but I'm talking about green jobs which are sustainable. So we need urgent action in the submission of the nationally determined contributions. And we also need young people to be part of the implementation phase of the NDCs. We also highlighted on the issue to do with gender and climate. We realized that both men and women, they all face the consequences of the impacts of climate change, and it is very important for us to highlight that. The reason why you see this component there is because even amongst youth group, there are issues to do with gender, and it is very important for us to address these issues and to also make sure that these vulnerable groups like women that are amongst young people, they also get access to finances, to climate funds that are being, that are available. So even climate fund itself, it should take it should pay particular attention to gender. There are also issues to do with the action for climate empowerment that will be highlighted in this position paper. There is need for us to disseminate information. There is need for us to translate this information into languages that our people can understand. Most of the climate information is very difficult to explain. It's in English, it's too technical. And we need to make sure that information, if it's possible, it can be in Braille so that those with certain disabilities, they also have access to this information. We also highlighted the need to capacitate young people and continue building capacities on the 4 IPCC sectors, which are the agriculture sector, the waste sector, the energy sector, the IPPU sector, industrial processes and product use. This is quite important. From there, if we have capacitated young people, it also becomes easy to have young people that could be part of their national's roster of experts and can become greenhouse gas inventory experts as well. Then just to finalize, I think on the last 2 points, some of the issues that you would find in this position paper are issues to do with climate change negotiations, how we are calling upon governments to come up with a program so that they can train and educate young people in their countries on how they can become junior negotiators. This program can be with support or in partnership with the African Group of Negotiators. I'm sure yesterday, if we're in the meeting, there was a question that was posed to Ambassador Nafo, and one of the participants was asking, is there a possibility of improving this program of capacitating young people or of having more junior negotiators? And he actually responded by saying, you'll be surprised that most of our negotiators, most of them are below the age of 35 years old. But in our respective countries, if we reflect, how many young people are negotiators? So we want young people to take up the space. If we don't take up the space, the gap will continue to grow. And after 10 to 15 years, we do not have competent African negotiators because we have not been given the space. So we need, even if we are not given the space, let's grab the space by force. Join other platforms like Yungo, where you can learn how to be a negotiator and you can learn on other negotiated topics. Yesterday, when we did our exercise, most people were talking about agriculture, food security, and water. And we thought that this is quite important to include this into our position paper. Our population continues to grow, and the FAO projects that by 2050, our population will be approximately 10 billion. And yesterday in the meeting, I actually mentioned that by 2035, the youth population will also continue to grow to approximately, it will increase to approximately 45%. And there is need for young people to be capacitated to try to adapt to the effects of climate change. The IPCC 6th report highlights that the effects of climate change will continue to attack certain regions. To be specific, like the southern part of Africa, it will be affected. And this will affect food security issues. It will also affect water security issues. So it is also important to have different players that are coming on board, that are offering incentives to young people that are in the green businesses, that are offering incentives to young people that are working on reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the agricultural sector. So this is just a glimpse of our position paper. If you have anything you feel like you want to add, please feel free to use the chat box. I'll definitely comment on each and every topic, or on each and every, reflections that you would have put in there. It's still a draft. It's not yet a final paper. It's still a draft. We are still gathering information, but we're hoping that by next week, I will be able to finish up this job. So without saying much, I'm going to hand this to Jabri, who is going to walk you through the youth toolkits. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Liz. Super appreciated for your overview of the position paper. I think I can't wait to see the journey and the impact that the position paper on climate will play in the next few months. I know that's kind of one of our major outcomes of this AfriYOCCC, or the African Youth Conference on Climate Change 4, is to have this position paper. Yesterday in our high-level dialogue, we had Nigel Topping, one of the high-level champions, saying that youth have a lot of asks. They're saying we want action now, we want this and we want that, but it's very important that first of all, we capacitate ourselves. We know the kind of climate issues that are most relevant and pertinent for COP26. And then when we go there, as an African youth, if you're at COP26, if you're lucky enough to go there, and even if you're lucky enough to join virtually, if someone asks you as an African youth, what is your position on climate in Africa? You can use this document that we are making, and that first of all, we consulted a huge number of African youth on the ground, as well as a lot of kind of experts, that you can use this and say, well, this is our Africa youth position on climate today and tomorrow and for the next year. So I think it's always important. There's also ELCOIs, which, and you can see if your country is doing an ELCOI, which is the local conference of youth, and you can engage at the more national level to kind of, if someone goes more granular and asks you, yes, we know a position on Africa, but what is your country's position on climate for this year? So I just want to thank you, Liz, for that. And I actually can't wait to read the kind of final document on the position paper. We'll make this, of course, if you follow AfriYOCCC on the social media channels or check our websites, it will be launched as soon as possible. And then I also want to thank Olumide, who presented on the Green Book. And I think the most important thing for the Green Book is to just showcase that young Africans are in fact leading innovation, and we are also a part of the climate action in the continent. And it's very important that we have this, as you said, as we presented, the unique pan-continental database of African youth innovation. And I often think innovation and our continent's, vigor stems and begins. It comes and it ends and begins with young Africans. And just off of that, the onus should be on kind of prominent policymakers and stakeholders in positions of power to reach out to youth. And a lot of the time, as young people, I'm sure I've heard of it, I'm sure all of you in the audience have heard that you are asked, why didn't you do this? And why did you do that? And why did you reach here? And it's because, the onus is placed often on the youth to be like, why didn't you do enough? Where I think the resilient African youth are so resilient, in the sense that a lot of the challenges, pervasive challenges that we face as African youth is so kind of distinct and unique in the continent that even when you meet young people and their complaints from other continents, it almost seems like it's unrelatable. Sort of that they don't have to face power cuts and this and that and political instability. And some of the complaints, I have to say, of their leaders feels like, oh, I wish I had a leader that like your leader, even though you seem to complain about that. So without further ado, I would just like to introduce the next section, which I'm just going to present this resource pack of opportunities. And it's just sort of kind of my AfriYOCCC and myself, we kind of worked off of the basis of, if I was to attend a youth conference, or if I was to attend a webinar like this, what would I want to kind of feature, and in that sense, I would like to talk about this position paper. I mean the resource pack, where it will cover sort of 4 bases or 4 areas of work. And the first one I'm going to talk about is in terms of which institutions should you join? You are a lot of participants in this call right now, and I know a lot of you, I'm reading the chat box and I'm hearing, how do I get involved? What should I do? Which institution should I get involved? And I'll put this in the chat box right now. Give me a second. I'll put the, okay, one of my colleagues will put this in the chat box while I present. Basically, the resource park is an idea whereas it has all the institutions you should join. The first one is AfriYOCCC. This is sort of a lot of the colleagues you've had speak today are part of the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change. This is if you want to get engaged more on the regional level. If you want to get more engaged in the country level, you have to go more granular into the AfriYOCCC national chapters. I know Kenya has a national chapters, Uganda has one, and you should be able to kind of check within the AfriYOCCC website if your country has a chapter, and if not, you could champion your own AfriYOCCC national chapter. The second one is YOUNGO. This is an acronym, sort of just like young NGOs within the UNFCCC framework. It's the official youth constituency. You can join as an institution. If you have your own institution in your country, you can join YOUNGO. And if not, you can join as an individual. I know I joined as an individual, and from there, you have a slew of opportunities you can join. This is on sort of the climate space, but if you're more interested in the nature, biodiversity, space, wildlife, flora and fauna, that sort of thing, you can join the Global Youth Biodiversity Network. For YOUNGO, that's under UNFCCC, but for GYBN, that's under CBD's the CBD Convention on Biodiversity, focusing on nature. And a lot of the time you hear about COP26, but I don't know if a lot of you on the call here are aware about COP15, which was supposed to happen in China. So there is the Climate COP 26. On the other side, there's CBD's COP15. So if you're more interested, maybe not in the climate space, you want to be more in the nature biodiversity space, you can join this GYBN. I'm not reading the chat box right now, but I'm sure people are already asking, how do I join? How do I join? Someone will put the link in the chat box with the resource pack containing literally all of this information that myself and a lot of my colleagues have helped kind of put all this in one sort of accessible format. And then you can also join the kind of the network within United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification. I don't need to speak about why desertification is kind of pertinent in our region. And then you can also join the United Nations Major Groups for Children and Youth, UNMGCY. In essence, a lot of these institutions I'll be talking about is just the youth body of So the youth body of UNFCCC, the youth body of United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, and UNMGCY is the same version, but the youth body of UNGA, which is the UN, I'm not sure what that is actually. So UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, of course. And then UNDP's Spark Blue is just similar network. You can join as an institution, you can join as an individual, and CYCN is the Commonwealth Climate Network. And that's pretty new. So if you join now, you can really kind of scale up the ladder. And of course, one of our side event partners, right after this call, they'll have a side event on kind of climate action in Africa, and you can join their network on the Youth Collective. And I'll just quickly go to the next one, which is LAN. I would advise actually, before we join any of these networks, you should kind of know the bread and butter of the climate space. You should know kind of a few kind of relevant sections under the Paris Agreement that are being deliberated upon in COP26, Article 6. We also, Paris Agreement rulebook also needs to be finalized. So it would be good if you, and I'm sure a lot of the people on this call already know this. And then you can also just go into the UN Climate Change LAN. It's kind of, it has self-paced courses. So a lot of us on this call are busy, I know. You don't need to tell an African youth that they're busy. it's kind of known. There's a lot of things that are a lot of obligations that we all have to deal with. So you can take it 1 month, 3 months, at the end you get a certificate, and I don't need to tell youth why certificates are important. And then if you're also working on food and agri, sort of you're a youth kind of young farmer or youth working on farming advocacy, that sort of thing, you can join the FAO e-learning academy, food and agriculture organization. It's a UN entity. So these are sort of, I'm not just saying these three are the only places, but you can learn about climate, nature, and biodiversity. But these are the ones we think, in our opinion, would be most effective. And if I can talk about the first one, the Youth Climate Action, it's also by Yango, sort of Yango and partners formulating kind of the most pertinent issues in climate and how to capacitate youth on them. And the fourth one is ACT. Now, this one I realize a bit controversial, and youth, especially in Africa, can't always have the same sort of radical advocacy that our friends, European youth have. But I still think in a way you can find a sort of action or advocacy that is fit for purpose for your country. You can join the Fridays work and see the best way I think Fridays for Future works is the sort of opportunities that exist there. And there's a lot of resourcing inside the institution that you can learn about issues and learn about both sides. So sort of what's the left-leaning viewpoint of this climate issue and what's the right-leaning viewpoint of that climate issue. You can also join the MAPA, which is the most affected peoples and areas network within Yango. You don't have to pay anything, you don't have to do anything, you just have to sign up a form, they'll add you, give you all the opportunity, and you'll be involved. The idea, before I go to the final one, I would just like to say that the idea behind all this is that knowledge is power, you know. So it's not that African youth, I think I was on a call there a few days ago where someone was asking, why aren't African youth more involved similar to global North youth? And I think just African youth haven't been told you can do these things and you can join AYCC and you can join Yango. And in that sense, to become a climate leader, you just need the right information, because we are all able and we can do all these things that other people are doing. It's just a matter of who's given opportunity to learn and who's given that link to join and to do this and to do that. And then finally you have you're a climate leader within the continent. So you've all joined 3 days of AfriYOCC. At the end of it, you'll be sent this resource pack or you'll download in the Q&A. And in that sense, by virtue of you taking time out of your day and choosing to spend this time with AYCC, you should be able to be given sort of the right information that you can go off the webinar and say, well, I learned about this and I'm able to do this now. And I think that's sort of the best outcome in my opinion. And the last one, just to finish it off with a bang, sort of we can have a bit of fun with it is, so if you are like in a recreational sort of way where you don't want to, you're tired of like joining institutions, you've done your climate action with Fridays, you've went into the Youth Climate Action portal, you've learned about all the sort of pertinent issues within climate, what next? So you can play some games on your app. These are all sort of just like apps within your iPhone, and you can join them and you can learn about sort of the issues that are pertinent. The Paris A to Z game, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it's not the best game. Sort of, it's a bit, it functions really well, but it's kind of, if you really need to learn about section article this of the Paris Agreement, this is your go-to app. You can have it on your phone anytime, you can pull it up. I have it on my phone and I sort of treat it sort of like a Bible. Anytime so I need to read this, I just open it up and I have this Paris Agreement at the tip of my fingers. And then as Hero Climate Change, it just empowers you to take positive practical action in response to interconnections between climate and species loss, and you can kind of build your own world around there. Then there's the climate game. You just kind of understand your day-to-day carbon footprint. you input a lot of your data inside and it generates your kind of personal carbon footprint. And then it encourages you to go forth in your sustainability journey, in the sense that we all have what we can do. And I'm not saying that the onus is on you or that you're responsible for climate change, but in this game, everyone can do their own part. And that's kind of the idea behind it. And the Mission 1.5 game is sort of, it's a website, yes, but it's also an app. And you get to kind of vote within it. I know UNDP and Oxford University sort of formulated and generated this game in the sense that the governments, if you want the government in your region to hear about you, you're able to kind of input data there. And then after a while, all those votes will be aggregated, consolidated in a position where the youth position or the global sort of demographic position will be taken to governments and relevant stakeholders by UNDP and Oxford University. So I'm going to stop there, and I guess I'll stop sharing my screen now. And I'll just now talk about, I'll go to now our Q&A section of the dialogue, where I'm just going to ask anyone in the audience, I know a lot of you are listening in, if you could just kind of lift your hand up, you raise your hand, I see there's an icon. And it would be good if the questions you asked on this part relate to either the position paper or the green book or the resource pack. And I'll unmute you and I'll ask you to turn on your video. And if you have a question on the resource pack, you can just direct it to me and I'll answer it. If you have a question on the green book, I'll pass it to Olumide, who will answer. And if you have a question on sort of the position paper for African Youth on Climate, I'll pass it to Elizabeth Gulugulu here, who will answer your question. So I'm just going through now the participants list, and I'll see if anyone has raised their hand. Lilian Kempango, I'll allow you to speak now. I'll ask you to unmute and you can ask your question. Over to you, Lilian.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for your input and really insightful resources on climate action for the youth. I have a question on how can I join some of these programs, especially for the younger.
Yeah, thanks, Lilian. Fantastic question. I think this relates more to the resource pack. I hope one of my colleagues put that in the chat box. If not, give me a second. I'll put that link again in the chat box. Sort of, you can download the resource pack. It's just a few MBs, and then you can download. Let me see. Yeah. So Lilian, I hope this answers your question. How to join Yango, you can click that link and you can not only join Yango, but you can join AfriYOCCC, which is the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change. You can join GOAVN, which is the Global Youth Biodiversity Network. You can join the Commonwealth Youth Climate Network. So in this way, you'll be really sort of capacitated to kind of start your climate journey. Anyone else has a question? I don't see any hands up. If you had raised your hand, I don't see it anymore. So you can just put the hands up and I'll talk, I'll pick you. Joseph, okay. Go ahead, Joseph. And if you're able, please turn your video on. Joseph, I think you're muted because we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. So
Joseph, before you start, Joseph, are you able to turn on your video just so
the
we
nature?
can...
Okay. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying the nature of our African leaders and our African politics has not actually paved way for the competent, people who can take charge of these activities. For myself, it has always been my passion, but then there has not been avenue for me to, to exhibit my competence, how I can help save the planet. Now we are talking about climate change action, where we can individually take actions. So I just want to know if I should establish my own organization where I can partner with others, or to just do anything, like anything to show that I'm actually on the ground and I am climate change activist. That's my question.
Thanks, Joseph. I'm going to answer one part of your question, Joseph, and then I'll try to pass it on to Olumide. Please, if you can answer how we can get more involved, and then Liz, if you can just maybe add on to that, that would be good. So Joseph, I think the best way you can really get involved is to join the networks. This networks is literally the way, how professional networking, this is the way you'll find other youths doing the same thing you're doing. And you can't act in a silo. You can't have your own institution kind of duplicating the effort of your neighbor that's doing the same thing. If you partner with them and they have this contacts, you have this contacts, you come together, you convene, and maybe you catalyze action. And that's the best way. So the first thing you can do, Joseph, go through that resource pack that I went through, join those networks. And from that way, you'll have sort of a pan-continental across Africa and across the globe, you'll start establishing your personal networks. So I think that's the first thing you can do. Olumide, I'll just pass to you if you had any kind of reflections.
Yes, thank you very much, Jabri. Okay, let me quickly say that the very simple way to actually get engaged for the sake of this call and this AfriYOCCC that is going on, you can easily, I don't know the country, but from what I've seen, I think you are from Ghana. So if you are from Ghana, it is very, very interesting that you are coming from where the executive director, executive coordinator for AfriYOCCC is coming from. So getting engaged will be very, very easy for you. So I would just urge you to try as much as possible, if you can send an email across to ayickinafrica@gmail.com, you'll be able to see how you can engage with AfriYOCCC. And like what Jabri also said, if you can also lay your hand on the resource pack, you can also see where your interests lie in the other network, and you can also see whether you can also tap into them. But as much as possible, for the sake of my own network, the network I am now, I think if you want to engage with us, you can write to ayickinafrica@gmail.com. And it's also inside our resource pack. You can also get how you can register to join AfriYOCCC as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Olumide. Could you put that link in the chat box? So if anyone wasn't able to see that, they can see from the chat box. Liz, I don't know, did you have anything to add to that?
Of course, I always have something to add. Of course. What I just want to encourage all of us here that are here is, sometimes if I'm to ask how many people are in touch with their governments, I'm sure we'll get to see a few hands that are being raised up. Sometimes these opportunities, they are not even given to us, which is why I was saying that if opportunities are not given to us, let's grab them by force. It's always good to be part of a network. Someone said your network is your net worthy. So it's always important for you to be part of a network, because through networks, you get collaborations, you get partnerships, you get opportunities. So please, if you're not part of any network, please, that resource pack is going to support you. It's going to help you as you're going to start your climate change journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Liz. Fantastic. I think it all comes down to who amongst us in the audience now will go really open up that resource pack, click the link, open those documents, fill in all of that thing, all of the kind of fields, and then join the networks. So I know there's a lot of us in this call, but it might be just 10 of us who will really follow up. And I could write a whole book on following up. Who amongst us will just go home and forget they ever received this thing? but there's a few amongst us here who will really open it up and read it and click on the link. So that's the best way you can start. You need to kind of start your climate journey. We have, I guess, 9 minutes left for Q&A, so I'll take 3 more questions. Kevin, please unmute, and if you can turn on your video, it would be really good. So go ahead, Kevin. Kevin Odongo. Kevin, you have to unmute yourself and you have to turn on your video so that we can see you and hear you.
I think we can move to next person.
Okay. Yeah. T. Dawson, please unmute if possible, turn on your video and ask your question. Can you hear us? Okay, there's a lot of technical issues here. T. Dawson.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank all of you presenters, most Miss Eliza for, I guess it's for second chance to meet with her, and she give out a lot of knowledge to me. I have a question. My first question is, I'm a young from Tanzania, and then I want to join the movement of climate change. I would like to invite you, if it's possible, or there is anyone who is found from Tanzania who have this movement, so as you can connect with me, so as we can start together in this movement of climate change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tidoson. I guess in the chat box, just Tidoson, put in the chat box, ask people, if you're from Tanzania, send me your phone number, send me your email, and you can connect in that sense. I'll just go one more question, guys, before we move on. And you know, Elizabeth just said there's AYCC in Tanzania. Please reach out to them. AYCC will have all the networks. And if you have your own institution, join the AYCC in Tanzania. That's the first one, first way you can get involved. I'm going to take one more question from Kenna Gima. Kenna, I'll ask you to unmute. And please, guys, it's good if you turn on your video. This is one of the kind of problems we have. Even if you're on your phone, it's completely fine. But just turn on your video. You want us to see you, so that if we see you on the street, we know. Kenna, can you hear us? You're muted. We can't hear you. Could you unmute, please? Can you hear us? Okay, I'll go to Landry Ngainema. Landry, can you hear us? You have to unmute yourself. You have to click that button and unmute yourself.
Yeah. Are you hearing me? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibrahim and Eliza, for your wonderful, informative approach. Well, I particularly don't have a question. I'd like to highlight some point, with your permission, of course.
Go ahead.
Okay, we, the young people, we are the decade of action. We are the one who have a clear picture of the nature. And I think it is the little things citizens do. When I talk about citizens, I talk about we, the young people. It's the little thing that we, the young people, do that will make the difference. It is time we act. It is time we think sustainably. It is time we put nature at the center of our activity. You know, life have some decision. I personally think everyday decision are very important. However, we also make important life decisions that will have a large impact on the environment and market, including where we live, our location, and type of residence. Also, we have to choose the way we need to reduce our environmental impact. I have, for example, living far from your working place or recreation can have considerable environmental impact depending on your means of transportation. As the solution, you just have to live near where you work or play. So you can use transportation options like bicycle or walking. I think if we do that, we, the young people, if we make those smart decisions, we will reduce our carbon impact. So that was my message. So before giving up the floor, I would like to call upon all the young people worldwide to come out with the transition to a green economy as effective tools for achieving the sustainable development. Let me remind the young people and the worldwide that the science is clear. We have just one decade to end the biodiversity loss and to achieve the sustainable development goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Landry. Thank you for that call to action. Very unexpected, but actually very welcome. So thank you for that. Super appreciated. I know we're kind of running out of time, but I'm really enjoying this Q&A session. So if I could just pick one more person to talk. And I've just been informed that actually the attendees can't turn on their videos. So my bad on that, guys. But I can allow you to kind of unmute yourself and then you can talk. So I'll just go to Swale Ali. Swale, you can unmute yourself now and you can just ask your question either on the resource pack, on the green book, on the position paper. Please let us know. Swale, can you hear us?
Hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Am I clear? Okay,
Yes.
from Kenya. I'm from Kenya, Mombasa. So me, I don't have a question, but I want to say something about the platform. Actually, I'm seeing the life of youth being at a good place. So I'm really hoping to engage with you guys and explore with you guys. So I'm really hoping for the best, you know. But I'm really happy and humbled to be part of this.
Thank you, Swale. Well, I'm also from Kenya, so Mombasa Raha. So thank you for that. And we're reaching kind of the end of our Q&A session. Guys, I know a lot of people are asking in the chat box, is there an AYCC on in my country? You can literally just kind of go to the website, AYICC Kenya, and then join there. There is one Kenya, I can confirm. You can follow them on Twitter. You can go to their website. You can email them. You know, as you know, in Kenya, people say kazi kwako, meaning that now it's up to you. You're armed with all these opportunities. You're armed with the networks, and all of us here on the call, sort of the panelists, we all started with just a link. You know, sort of like someone sent you a link, and that's how you start off. And you never know how far these links can take you and how far these kind of small opportunities can take you. And often a lot of us start off with a lot of volunteering, uncompensated work, but you really have to like put your head down and go through it, and it will lead to something fruitful. Maybe if I can just conclude now before we move on, I would just like to say that I know I already said this, but knowledge is power. You have all this kind of information in your fingertips. And I would also, maybe the last thing I can do before I move on, to the next part of this is I'll put this link in the chat box. And I'm just doing it now. It's coming from the top of my head, but that link will direct you to sort of all United Nations internships. These internships are unpaid, but you never know. You need this kind of work in the climate, work experience in the climate space. Just log in and just search, see if there's any kind of opportunities there. And that may be your first kind of step into the system. And right now, you can apply to any UN agency in any part of the world. They're all virtual. So yeah, anyone who will click this link will be directed to the right place. From now, we're just going to listen to a video clip or a message from Nisreen El Saim, who chairs the United Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. The video will come now. Thanks, everyone. The video is muted, so.
More exposed than ever to the climate crisis and the climate catastrophes. The world is responding very hugely to the impacts of the emitters. Yet the actions and the response from the emitters and for the climate adaptation and mitigation is not enough and not as in the size of the challenges we are facing. I just met Nigel at the IUCN Congress, and a lot of talks and discussions were about the synergies between climate change and biodiversity and how urgent it is now to take actions on climate change and also to take actions on biodiversity. We have a great opportunity in front of us, which is COP26. So let's make sure that the voices of young people and young Africans reach the COP decisions and influence the different stakeholders and different negotiators. We also have here in the panel Mr. Ambassador Seni, who was the previous chair of the African Group of Negotiators. So please feel free to reach out to your negotiators in their countries, try to reach your voices and try to push the outcomes in COP26, because it will be the floor and the ground and the base for the COP27 for the action. Because as all of the scientific reports say, especially the last report by the IPCC, we are really running out of time and we don't have enough capacity to adopt with that anymore. Thank you very much for having me here, and I'm really sorry that I can't be there for live streaming. If you have any question, please address it to Elizabeth or any of the team, and I will be happy to respond on it in other platforms. Thank you very much.
Cool. That was a call of action from the chair of the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change, mentioning the interrelations between climate and nature. And now we're moving on to our closing. I'll just introduce Kassim Gawusu-Toure, who is the Executive Coordinator of African Youth Initiative on Climate Change. He's also one of 3 junior climate negotiators under the Africa Group of Negotiators. Over to you, Kassim. Sorry, Kassim, you're muted.
Can you hear me, Jabri?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jabri, for the great moderation. And let me also take the opportunity to thank my colleagues, Olumide and Elizabeth, for their earlier submissions, and also Juliet for their earlier submissions. Colleagues, dear participants, all too soon we have come to the end of 3 days of intense and interactive session on a climate change, and a topic that is of extreme importance to the future of young people on the continent. Climate change is regarded as the biggest global threat of the 21st century, and its impact on youth cannot be underestimated.
quoting the former president of the United States of America, Barack Obama, no challenge poses a greater threat to the future generation than climate change, unquote. In Africa, the challenges related to social and economic integration of young people has made our situation more vulnerable to the climate crisis. It is therefore heartwarming to see an increasing momentum among African youths in the fight against climate change. We have listened to very insightful speakers and also insightful presentations over the past 3 days. With membership of about 100 when the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change first started in 2006, the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change, AYIC, has grown to become the largest youth network on the continent, with current membership of over 20,000 and with 42 national chapters. I heard a lot of colleagues and friends asking about how they can join AYIC, and probably a link has been shared on how you can join AYIC. You can also reach out to us via the email address that Olumide, my colleague, has mentioned earlier. We have, over the years, mobilized youth fronts from across the continent, not only to demand for climate justice, but more importantly, to also contribute to the solution through various initiatives led by our national chapters. Dear friends, to sustain this momentum, which is very important at this moment, and ultimately to win the fight against climate change, there is the need to build bridges with other young people across the globe and to put our voices at the center of climate change negotiations. We need to hold hands in solidarity and speak with one strong voice as we move to COP26, and most importantly, as we prepare for COP27, which is going to be an African COP. This year's African Youth Conference on Climate Change has provided us with yet another unique opportunity to develop an African youth position paper outlining our priorities and expectations, which we hope will feed into the global youth position for COP26. As my colleague have mentioned, AYIC has the greatest movement, and we present an opportunity to mobilize the voices of young people at the global level. I am also at this point happy to share with you that an exhibition space has been provided for AYIC for us to exhibit our work at COP26, and we hope to leverage on this to showcase the contribution of African youth to the global fight against climate change. Our Youth EcoSmart book project process has just been launched, and I would like to encourage all of you to make submissions so that your initiatives and actions on the ground will be considered in this Green Book. I am extremely gratified by the serious level of engagement for the past 3 days, and I am also inspired by the lineup of speakers we had for this year's AfriYOCC. Day one, as has been highlighted by my colleague Juliet earlier in the call, Day one had a great session which provided us with the opportunity to learn and exchange ideas. And at this moment, let me thank our speakers for the first day, Dr. Richard Muna from UNEP, Dr. Yuba Sukona, who is the Vice Chair of the IPCC, and as well as Mr. Stuart West from the COP26 presidency. And again, let me also thank our youth speakers for that day, who have really shared with us inspiring messages and interventions that we need to really pick up and also take action on the ground. Udechi Agozi, and I really like the diversity of our speakers, our youth speakers. We had Udechi Agozi, who is from Nigeria. We had also Dion Shekuza from Namibia, Joshua Amponsem from Ghana, and Maria Oma from Uganda. Indeed, we were very happy, and we are very inspired by the actions undertaken by these young people, and also appreciate them sharing this experience with us. On the second day, we had a high-level panel, which more or less provided us with the opportunity to have a dialogue with global leaders who are really taking leadership in the climate space. And I'm happy to mention that we had the UN envoy, special envoy on climate change, His Excellency Selwyn Hart. We really appreciate the fact that he made time to join us. I would like to also thank the high-level champions, the two high-level champions for COP26, Nigel Toppin and Gonzalo Munoz, as well as the chair of the AGN, the spokesperson of the African Group of Negotiators, Ambassador Seni Nafo, who also made time to join us. And of course, we just listened to our sister and colleague Nizrin from Sudan, who also shared her perspective to us and also calling on us to really build up a momentum towards COP26. We indeed appreciate the commitment and support from all our high-level speakers for this event. Let me also thank, at this moment, my colleagues from the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change for their tireless efforts in putting up this program event together. It's been 3 days of intense, as I mentioned, and also exchange of ideas. Our moderators have been very amazing. Fatou Jen from the Gambia, Elizabeth from Zimbabwe. We had also heard from Juliet from Uganda, Olumide from Nigeria, and of course yourself, Jabri, from Kenya. Indeed, you guys have been very amazing. And so finally, I think, this program wouldn't have been a success if we hadn't had great participation, as I mentioned earlier. So I would like to thank every one of you who have made time to join AfriYOCC for the past 3 days. Indeed, AfriYOCC ends today, but definitely not the end of our engagement. This is the important time for us to renew our commitment and build partnership as we move to COP26 and prepare for COP27. I would like to encourage all of you to take advantage of the resource pack that has been shared for further engagement. You can also connect with us through the email address that I've mentioned earlier, and also follow us on all our social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and all that. So we would like to still engage with you. As I've mentioned, we need to really build that momentum as we move to COP26, and also as we prepare for the African COP. Finally, maybe before I end my statement, I would like to also acknowledge the support of our partners, indeed the high-level champions. And I would like to acknowledge the fact that Jabri, you are from the high-level champions and you have been very amazing. So we really appreciate the support from your team, and also Amanda, who has been behind the technical scene. So we really appreciate the support from high-level champions who are, in fact, co-hosting this event. And again, I would like to acknowledge the support of the Open Society Initiative for East Africa, OSIA, for their enormous support. And again, Yongo, which is the youth constituency for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, has also been supportive. Our partners, the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, as well as the African Youth Climate Hub, Restless Development, have also been very amazing. I think many of you would have followed some of the side events that were hosted by some of our partners. And even as we end this event, we will still have one of our partners, the Restless Development, who are coming up with a side event out there. And I would like to encourage you to really take advantage to join this side event. At this moment, let me thank all of you once again. And as I've mentioned earlier, this is not the end of it. We still have the opportunity to continue engaging. Let's build that momentum. Let's hold hands in solidarity, and let's keep pushing. We have COP26 as an opportunity for us to get our voices heard. Thank you, and I hope to see you once again soon. Bye.
Oh, could I just encourage everyone, Fatou, Juliet, Olumide, Liz, could we just turn our cameras on for 1 second? Fatou, Juliet. Okay. I don't know if Fatou can hear us. Kassim, we've lost your video.
Jabri, if we can also share with the participants that our webinar settings
Yeah.
does not allow you guys to turn on your cameras, but it would have been really, really amazing to capture your faces. Hopefully next time we'll improve.
Yeah, we'll work on that, guys. We can't turn on the participants' videos, and we apologize for that. But Kassim, if I could just ask you to turn on your video. I don't know if Fatu, can you hear us? Okay, I think that our profile picture just looks good, so that's fine.
Amanda.
Jabri?
Yes?
We still have the participants, right?
Yes, we have them.
Okay, good.
And just like smile. Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone. I've taken it.
Thank you very much, guys.
I wasn't smiling, Jabril.
Guys,
Okay.
just to remind you, should I proceed, Jabri, or?
Yeah, we can proceed. I'll just ask Kassim to turn on his video one more time, please.
Sorry,
Okay,
can we stop the recording?
Whilst we're still at it, please, to the participants, we have a side event that is happening after this session. Jabri, if you can paste the link in the chat box so that our participants can also be part of the conversation. That's where we are heading to after this. So
yes,
yeah.
I'll paste this again. Thanks. I've put it in the chat box, guys. I know someone asked if there are any sort of events like this happening. There's one happening right now, so you can join that. Cool.
Thanks, you, guys. Everyone. See you all in the next call.
Bye. See you soon. A happy child. Bye.